And hi, everybody. This is Tony Heil with ALS United Mid-Atlantic, and this is our Goals podcast. I am excited today because I'm talking with my friend Alisa Brownlee about her 30 years working here at ALS United Mid-Atlantic as she advances assistive technology for communication, accessibility, and better quality of life. Before we start this conversation, I just want to remind you to go back to past episodes, including either with Alisa as a guest or as a host of this podcast, and other episodes of people living with ALS, caregivers, researchers, advocates, volunteers, so many people with their own perspective on this disease. You can find our episodes on Spotify, iTunes, and YouTube, and I encourage you to email me with your suggestions on topics you'd like to hear about. That includes, like recently we talked with State Representative Kyle Mullins about his advocacy story and his personal connection to ALS. I've talked with the lead researchers at Hershey Medical Center, at Jefferson University, Jefferson Weinberg Center, listen to their intelligence and their great work they're doing on ALS research. So email me, tony@alsmidatlantic.org for your ideas, suggestions, and feedback. And of course, you can email Alisa. I know she's happy with me giving her email address out. It's alisa@alsmidatlantic.org. And Alisa has been here basically since the dawn of email. she has been not just our local leader on assistive technology, but a national figure, talking with panels, and not only in the United States, but even around the world. She has gone to talk about how technology can improve people's lives. It's not just that technology is cool, which it is. It's not just that it's something that is fascinating to learn about. It is, but it is about how we can use it to improve your quality of life, improve your health, and not just for people with ALS, but for their caregivers as well. So we're going to talk about her 30-year journey, and this time on this podcast, we have some visual aids. We're going to be going through it. So Alisa, thank you so much for talking today. I'm excited to hear about your history and about the progress of assistive technology.
Thank you for the opportunity, Tony. And yeah, I do not predate email. We did have email when I started, but I believe I was the 11th person hired by our office. And we all had computers, but only one computer had access to the internet. And that was Phillips. Her secretary had it. So her secretary would go to lunch and we would all line up trying to wait to check email. So yeah, we've come a long way. And so has technology. I can't even tell you the difficulty of somebody when I started in 1996 to obtain a communication device because they were not covered under insurance. They were very expensive. And the voices were just, I'm going to be honest, horrible. I mean, They talk like this. And they mispronounce things all the time. Like, I never understood why the speech synthesizers couldn't get the word pilot. They would say pilot. And they never said my name right. So I would always have to spell it phonetically, like Aleesa, to get it to say Alisa. And we didn't have a lot to choose from. So, again, hired in 1996. We had Windows. We had email. However, none of the communication companies were putting any of their platforms on Windows. So we were using MS-DOS, okay? So people who wanted to communicate couldn't get on the internet with their device that might, use a switch or something. So it was primitive at best. And thankfully, our office had a small, very small supply of devices. The one that you're looking at on the screen, this is called an Epson Real Voice. And at the time, just the keyboard alone was $4,000, which I did an equation last night that it would be $8,800 right now, give or take, okay? And that's just the keyboard that you're looking at. And so Epson was actually the original laptop creator. They sold this product, the keyboard that you're looking at, as a laptop. And then another company decided, hey, we want to make this have a speech synthesizer on it. So they did that. And you could see, you can print out, there's a little printer tape there. There's also a cassette tape on the right And then in the middle of that screen is what you're typing. And then a few years later, they added the top part. And what you did with the top part, if you couldn't use your hands anymore, you wore what they called at the time an infrared laser. It's the picture on the top. Okay, that's a child, but he's wearing a laser. It looks like a flashlight, does it not? And it was heavy. But the idea was that you would put that on, and then you would go and dwell on a letter, and the letter underneath it, the red dot would light up, and you knew where you were. Okay, but you would have to spell everything out letter by letter by letter. And you had to maneuver your neck and your head through that whole area in order to use the entire communication device. So that was what we had. We had 4 of them when I started. Yeah. And so that was our original. If you want to go to the next one.
Before I go to the next slide, this reminds me of the letterboards,
Yes,
and you have shown that we still have a lot of them. They're still an important tool, right?
absolutely. Anybody who has any type of communication issue should always have multiple modalities of communication, because the way you're going to communicate when you're on the toilet in the bathroom is going to be different than you're communicating in your living room. Okay, people don't use their eye gaze devices in the bathroom. There's not a lot of room, right? So you always need a backup system. That could be the letterboards, that could be something called encoding. Lots of rapid access technologies are available, and people use multiple modalities of communication based on where they are in their environment, in their home, in the community. Maybe they're still working. So yes, absolutely, you need a backup system. But yes, to your point, this could be a talking letterboard if that's
And
the way you're looking at it. Yeah.
and from your experience working on these things, what do you think comes first for some of these developers? Working on the technology or having someone like you with the empathy of working with patients to understand kind of the needs? Because they're great companies. We've seen so many of them, but I can tell just from even the sentence you said there that you need someone who understands communication needs for not just ALS, but and so if you're just developing it to work, you're on the technology level, you may not be thinking about how it works for your common usage for making things easy. Like this is on someone's head. How's it working for their neck muscles? How's it working for their eyes? Do you think that at the time of these early devices, the developers had enough appreciation for the user experience for someone with ALS or a disability?
Um, I think it came
Mm.
eventually. They developed the product, as I said, that original laptop. I think it was called the HX20 from Epson. That the one that you're looking at, just the laptop. And then people in the speech pathology world came to these companies and said, "We have a large amount of people around the world who cannot communicate from not just from ALS, it might be autism, it might be a stroke, anything. There are millions of people that have communication issues." So the product here was developed and then subdeveloped into a communication device. And I've seen that throughout my young career. People would just say, "Oh, here's a product, let's change it into a communication device," until um, Dynavox, which was one of the original AAC companies besides Prinky Romack. And Prinky actually is older than Dynavox. But their company philosophy is, we are developing communication devices for people that cannot speak. We're not basically taking a device off of the market and trying to twist it into what we need. So yeah, that really changed, I would say, um, you know, late 90s, early 2000s. Um, and Dynavox was the first company, I think. Forgive me if I'm wrong, if somebody's watching or listening and they know better. But they developed what's called a dynamic display screen, which is now so standard with our iPhones. It's what you use for your iPhone, your tablet, your iPad. You're using what's called a dynamic display, where you don't have a keyboard. Well, that was huge in the AAC community to have that. So that happened in the early 2000s. And then the other thing that happened, I want to say, yeah, early 2000s, maybe 1999, there was a company, and we have a slide. We'll get to it, but they have a product called, it was a company called Words Plus, and the product was Easy Keys. And that was still in MS-DOS until like 99, 2000. Once it went into Windows, it gave the user the ability to not only communicate, but to operate a mouse without having to use their hands.
Mm.
So that got people all excited. It got people being able to access the internet and communicate and shop online, which was, I think, really developing at that time too. The shop online era.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thank you for going into that background because I think it really highlights that when you get involved with ALS United Mid-Atlantic and you donate, volunteer, advocate, what you're doing is not just supporting the equipment, but it's
Hmm.
the people behind getting you that equipment that understand your needs. 'Cause just getting a device is nice, it's fine, but it is pales in comparison to having people with the expertise and the compassion and empathy and the experience to tailor those technologies to what you need for a better quality of life. So that's what you offer, Alisa. You offer more than just a checkbox. So thank you for that. Let's go to the next slide, though.
Yeah. So
Slide
the
number
next slide
two.
is just, yeah, a close up of the real voice. You could see up on the upper left, that's where you could print out what you've typed. Yay. So go ahead to the next one.
Great.
I believe the next, this is a Canon communicator. So you type what you want. You see that little ticker take on the left side? You were supposed to give that to your caregiver to read.
Wow.
It was like, it was the smallest print ever. But it's what we had at the time. So go ahead with the next one too.
But I imagine as low tech as this seems, it could be really useful for someone versus the alternative of nothing.
Absolutely. And this was probably 2000, 2500 at the time, but that's a lot, 30 years
Yeah.
ago. Yeah.
So this is our next slide.
Yeah, this is a really old one. This is a Vocade. It's one of the original AAC devices. And this is a device that doesn't allow free thought, okay? It's considered a dedicated device. The only thing this can do is repeat what you've stored in the keys here. So this says yes. So the person will press that button, it says yes. And it says no. And everything was pre-recorded by another human being. So it was very limited, but it was by far better than what we ever had before, which was nothing. So this was a really, really old device, but we still had some.
And even with this device, you got training and understood how to use it when you would offer this to someone else as a tool.
Oh, absolutely. Usually at the beginning, I was on the road all the time, delivering devices, helping people learn how to use it. Most of our clinics now, fortunately, have a communication professional on staff, or we even still have consultants that we'll send out. So no matter how you get your device, there are ways to get trained on it. You don't want to just send any type of device, and it doesn't have to be a communication device. It can be a Hoyer lift. Somebody needs to be trained on it.
Yeah.
So yes, we provide training.
Next slide here.
This is one of the Easy Words Plus. You could see down here another dedicated device. So you would store the phrase, like the one on the top right says goodbye. So what I would do is I would take the device, I would program my voice in it to show a person, and then they would probably use one of their family members. But again, very limited, but we had a few of these too. But people want to be able to have free thought. They want to be able to type out, I'm not in a good mood today. But you couldn't do that here unless you had a key that was programmed for it. So go ahead with the
Let's
next
go.
one. This is Easy Keys. This was my favorite thing when I first started. and um, the top box that's in blue, that was your scanner box. So you would use a switch, and a switch, I don't have something, but I'll give you an example like this, okay?
Not
And
a Nintendo Switch.
no, it's a switch. It's actually, switches come in a variety of shapes and sizes, but it's a device that you would activate through some type of movement, maybe a finger movement, maybe a chin movement, like this. And so once you activate the switch, it sends a current to the machine to do something. And on this, it starts scanning row, 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 column, 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 until it comes to what you want. And then on the left side, you could see it's called word prediction, so that you don't have to type every word. And this was available in, once it became available in Windows, we purchased a whole bunch of these. And I would just take a standard laptop, add the speech software, add a synthesizer. Now, the synthesizer at the time was like $1,500, but it was a better synthesizer than when we started. So the new synthesizer that came out in the early 2000s was called Deck Talk, DECTALK. And it was much better, much better. It didn't sound robotic. Listen, it didn't sound exactly human either, but it was better than what we had. So we would put these machines together and loan them out. Again, we did not get funding for communication devices until 2001 from Medicare. And that was funded through 2014 when they stopped, and then they started again, I think around 2018. So easy keys, you put it on a laptop, so that laptop will have your email, it'll have your internet, everything. And I was relaying this story at our staff meeting on Monday, talking about my time here. And I had gone down to Sewell, New Jersey to give a laptop with a switch, all of this that you're seeing here, to a woman named Paula. And I was just like, great, she was off and running, really, really took to it. And I will say about 3 days later, I'm sitting at my desk and I get a call, and I'm like, oh, and her husband calls me, I am so mad at you. And I'm like, what did I do? What did I do? And then he's like, I'm only kidding. And then he kind of cried because Paula was able to order from QVC the exact color pink that she wanted. And he kept telling me for 2 years he was shopping for her clothes, but he never got the color pink right. He would get the wrong color. So he was so happy that she could get online and order what she wanted. For her, that was a game changer, because she even emailed me back and said, I can dress myself again. And if you think about it, how what we wear sometimes is the perception of others, and it makes a difference of what we're wearing. But she couldn't choose for 2 years. So this really opened up the door when we ended up getting the software that was compatible with a Windows computer. And then what ended up happening is the communication companies went, oh, we have to add the internet to our communication devices, the ones that are funded now under insurance. And Medicare said, great, but we're not paying for it. Okay, they only want to pay for what they call a dedicated device, and they don't want it to have internet access. So you would get a device from insurance that had the internet on it, but it was turned off until you paid a fee to the company to turn it back on again.
I remember you telling me that
Yeah.
before, and it's just the idea of living without the internet, even for 5 minutes, feels so alien now. Um, but I do want to talk about something you mentioned about the years, because part of this years that you're mentioning is when the Scott Mackler Assistive
Mhm.
Technology program became available. They've been doing that, supporting that mission for over 20 years, 25 years for people with ALS. The Mackler family, such an important pillar of our organization and for ALS in general. How important has it been with what the Mackler family has done to bring this kind of technology to people?
Well, I will tell you that when I first started working with Scott, this is what we started with, was
Mm.
WordPress, because he was using a Windows computer. He was still working at Penn doing research. Um, and without and I'm not just going to say technology. I think what you said earlier, without the services, you are left floundering. And nobody wants to flounder especially when they want to communicate. So we've been able to offer services, not just my services. As I said, I have a network of people now that can assist somebody. We have outside organizations that now, because COVID taught us that we can do telehealth even. Or I probably do 5 Zoom calls a week with different people from different regions. Um, so technology matters, but service is even more important. And one of the things that I always appreciate about our organization is, if you're calling Monday through Friday on business hours, you're going to get a human being, you
Yeah.
know, and they might end up calling the main office, and the main office is like, no, you need to talk to Alisa, or you need to talk to one of the social workers. But everybody will get directed. Um, so we, throughout the history of the MACLA program, we've been able to provide technology and services, and it's not just communication technology. Let me go, we don't have pictures of it, but I mean, think about the ability to call for help, okay?
Hmm.
And you're wearing a mask, you're tied up with a non-invasive ventilator here, and you need to call for help, but you have no way to call. Well, the most reliable call bell system we have is called an Easy Call Bell and Alarm. It's by MedLabs, but it's almost $300. I mean, $300 for a call bell, but we provide them all the time. I think it's abysmal that insurance won't pay for something as crucial as calling for help, but hey, I'm not in charge. But yes, we offer things outside of the realm of communication. So call bells, and access to a computer, because that's another thing that's not covered.
Yeah.
Insurance will pay for a communication device, but they're not going to pay for somebody to get onto a computer. So,
Well, I appreciate that education is such a key part of this. So let's keep educating about the next slide,
okay.
which is
Just another easy keys. You could see that this is how old it was. They were using Word Perfect. I don't even think Word Perfect exists anymore.
I remember using it though. This is
I did.
technology I
I
remember
liked it because of
using.
the blue background. I really liked
Yeah.
it. So the
It,
next slide is fine.
now so many of the actual programs are so complicated that sometimes you just want something simple
I
instead
know.
of all of these bells and whistles that confuse people.
Yep.
All right, let's go to this next
This
slide
one,
and
like
explain
writer,
this one.
this was the staple of our AAC closet. So again, they were around 4,500 at the time, but it had double screens, so you could see I could be typing here, but you could be sitting across from me at a table and see what I'm writing. So it gave people what like a discrete speech instead of pressing the button that says "I need the bathroom" and everyone in the restaurant can hear you. They could just type it out, and the user could see what you're typing. Um, it was good as long as you had hand function. If you didn't, the one on the right was a scanner. So again, you would use that switch I described, like right here with my chin, and it'll go row, 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 hit my switch, column, column, column. So it was very slow to scan, um, but it was a developmental monument. I think monumental development. That's what I'm trying to say, because it had the 2 screens. Because people did want to have private conversations. But how do you do that if you have a communication device that only has one screen, and in order for someone to hear you, they either have to be standing over that small screen that you saw on the real voice, or you have to hit say out loud. So I was so disappointed when this product went away because the company.
But this reminds me that not only have you helped teach people with ALS and caregivers technology, but a lot of them, the people who are living with ALS, have taught us and each other. This your story reminds me of Stephen Cronin,
Mhm.
who is one of our amazing advocates. He spoke at an event with PA Life Sciences last year about technology and research. and he manipulated iPads and other devices so that you could see what's on a screen as well
Hmm.
and have a faster conversation. So I imagine that you have learned things from the usage of technology from other people with ALS.
Oh my gosh. The only way that I was able to do my job in the early years was working with our families and both of us learning together because they would show me things and I would show them things. And I still do that today. I will take notes. Somebody said this product is great, blah, 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 or I tried it this way. And I'm like, never thought of that. Um, so the ALS community shares a lot amongst themselves and they're very supportive of each other. But absolutely, I couldn't have taught myself as much as I need to know without working with people who are using these devices and saying to me, hey, this is what I did, or here's the shortcut I made. Absolutely. And then I pass it on to somebody else.
Yeah, and I wish that I had known you when my grandfather had ALS, because if he had some of these devices, his life and my grandmother's quality of life would have been so much better. And it
Absolutely.
just really reminds us of what we can do. So let's look at the next slide.
This
Whoa,
was
what's
called,
that?
it was called an early liberator from Frankie Romuck, I believe. And again, you can see that on the left hand side, that is a screen that faces away from the user. So this was a pre light writer, um, but you could see the technology was starting to develop there. But yeah, this was an old one too, very old, in fact. You can go to the
I'm
next
sure
one.
that took I'm sure that took some time to get used to.
Oh
So let's
yeah.
look at this looks brand new.
Okay, so you've seen people use their eye gaze device, correct?
Mm-hmm.
This is their first eye gaze device. Look at how much you had to have. to, when this came on the market, it was about $27,000 to $30,000. And what you are looking at now is encapsulated in the size of an iPad right now. So we've gone from three different monitors and all kinds of different keys to putting an eye gaze system in a 14-inch monitor. But yes, this was an early eye gaze system. Not exactly
How,
portable either.
how old would this have been? Like the 90s?
This is the 90s. Yeah, they started eye gaze technology. I think I just was on the website yesterday. LC Technologies was the originator, and they started working with NASA, I want to say in the 70s. And it was about, giving pilots more opportunity to do multitasking. I can't remember, but this was probably 80s, 90s, early 90s. Yeah, but it's amazing how far we've come.
So here is our last slide that we have here.
And this is a page turner. This goes way back. So if you wanted to read a book, this $5,500 at the time unit was the only thing you could do. Um, Now we have Kindles where you can have small buttons just to turn your pages, or you can use your eye gaze to turn pages. But this was the only thing we had until the Kindle really came out, or until digital books came out. And so you put the book in here, and then over here is a switch. You can't really see it, but when you hit the switch, this arm would come out and it would grab the page and turn it over. Now, it might grab two pages. It might not grab a page. Just a shoot to figure out if it would work or not. But it's all we had. It was all we had, and I just thought, for at the time, what a great idea. Because most people want to read. They want to read a book. They want to read a magazine. They supposedly did magazines too. And it was awful to say, well, your choice is a $5,000 machine that's not covered under insurance. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, this is an old one, but I wanted to show this because of how far we've come. We have digital books now. We have books, audio books. So we have so much more than we had then. Um,
And today, ALS United Mid-Atlantic is starting a book club. So
Yes.
email me if you're interested. I have a great first books we're looking at. And really part of that book club is to not have the books be focused on ALS.
Hmm.
Because for our community, like, we love everyone who's a part of our community, but we also know people don't want to just be about ALS all the time. It's part
Hmm.
of having community and a little bit of escape. And so I encourage people, they can email me or Lisa because she'll just share it with me anyway. But if you're interested in being part of our book club and suggesting books, because whether it's that or some of our other events, it's important for us to have an outlet to be human and not only be about ALS all the time when it takes over your life.
Yes, absolutely. And it can. And hopefully technology, now that we've developed more, um, can open the doors for more things. And I say that especially through social media. And I know there are good and bad things about social media, but having been at an organization to with this organization before social media, in the United States, we had one listserv for ALS, and it was just a listserv. You would put out an email, and somebody would answer, and you'd have to check it, and it would, there might be 10 emails in response, and it was hard to keep up. And at the time, though, that listserv was crucial for people who were um, not able to get out of the house anymore, or who lived in real rural areas that did not have an accessible van and were basically stuck in the house. So even back then, the community tried to unite. And now, through social media, through some of the Facebook pages, the large pages, people can put out anything. On some of the pages, like, I'm having a bad day, and you'll get 100 responses. It'll get better, or let's talk about it, or DM me, or something. Um, so when it comes to social media, and the benefit that I've seen through my years is that people are able to connect with each other um, in a much broader scope. Uh, and then we have subdivisions, people who we have Facebook groups for people with ALS with young children. Okay, because that's not necessarily standard. Most,
Hmm.
if you look at the traditional age of onset, it's 55, give or take, 55 to 62. Well, if you're in your 20s or your young 30s and you have young children, your interests and are much different when it comes to dealing with this disease than somebody who might be in their 70s. So I think social media has been a really good um, intervention for our community.
I'm going to stop sharing the screen there so I can get your face better. But not only is social media important for the connections, but in a weird way, these technologies are also important for privacy because now a person with ALS can communicate with somebody without having to go through an intermediary.
Mhm.
Now, because of email, eye gaze, all of these things, someone who cannot move at all can talk about their wife or their husband or their parent or their children without having to go through that person, so you can vent your frustrations or maybe
Mhm.
buy a gift for them, or you can talk about anything without having to go through another person.
Absolutely. And you want autonomy. You want the ability to be able to make your medical wishes known, as opposed to, oh, having my caregiver speak for me all the time. Um, I had a young woman I was working with who had um, a communication device, and she had a young daughter in elementary school, and the only way she could communicate with the teachers was through email because she couldn't go to in-person conferences and she couldn't use the phone. So she was able to keep up with all her daughter's assignments and talk to the teachers through email. And that was her primary means of communication with her children's teachers. So,
And now that's how all the teachers are communicating with
yeah,
parents. And so as we make things more accessible for people with ALS and disabilities, it becomes a more accessible and better world for all of us.
Absolutely. And I will say this, what also has made a better world for our population with ALS is the ability to bank their voice in advance,
Hmm.
in case they need it. Uh, and that has come a long way. Voice banking, message banking used to take 20 hours, and you had to put a lot of time into it. And if people don't know, built into iOS, if you have an Apple device, whether or not it's a phone, it's an iPad, under accessibility, you can create your own voice. It's called a personal voice. I did it, it was 10 phrases, and it sounds like me. So, with technology the way it is, you can bank your voice, and it makes a difference that out of the communication device comes somebody's authentic voice. Yes, it's still an untrue synthesizer, but still it is them. And
And we're going to have that at our Help and Hope
yeah,
Symposium on April 9th. It's only a few days away from when this goes up. So it may, if you want a late registration, email me or you can go to helpandhopeals.org. And those videos will be available on our YouTube channel soon, so you can see those. Because people with ALS are learning these things and teaching us about them, I went to a wedding between David and Marie. It was a renewal of their vows. David has ALS and he can't speak, but he
hmm,
used this technology to deliver the vows to his wife because they were supposed to get married in 2020.
oh,
And it was beautiful because you could use your phone, get a QR code, and you could see him through AI and other technology deliver his vows to his wife that he could not physically do because of these advances.
wow, that's spectacular to hear. That it was,
And
and again, meaningful. It meant
yeah.
that he communicated with his voice, his
Hmm.
vows. So that of that's another huge technology advancement that we've had within probably the past 15 years has been voice banking, message banking, and now we have voice cloning, um,
Hmm.
which is the ability to take a previous recorded um, session, or whether or not it was somebody on a VHS tape, a CD, a DVD, and companies now are able to recreate that person's voice. And there was an article, I want to say it was in one of the British papers. I'm sorry, I don't remember which one, but there's a woman that lives in the United Kingdom. Her name is Sarah. She's an artist. She's had ALS for like 30 years, and a company was able to recreate her voice from less than a minute on a VHS tape. All right, and she was saying, "I haven't heard my voice in over 30 years." And they were able to recreate this. So, voice cloning, I think, with the advent of AI, 3 years ago, that would have been almost impossible. And now
Yeah.
here we are.
And one last thing before we wrap up talking about this communication is as you look at the evolution of assistive technology and how it's also been an evolution for all of us,
Hmm.
it demystifies and humanizes everything. So instead of it being, I need to change how I talk to this person because they have ALS, now if I email someone with ALS or text them, it's just the same way I communicate with everybody. So no one has to feel like they are being communicated to differently or treated differently because I am talking with someone with ALS the exact same way that I would talk to a family member or friend.
And that's what I heard early in my career. Why didn't people want to use a communication device? Because it made them stand out. It made
Hmm.
people view them differently. And then when the iPad came out, people would say to me, I walked into Starbucks, I typed my order, nobody cared because it
Hmm.
was so mainstream, but it didn't scream like using that Epson. Look at me, I can't communicate. So, yeah, it matters the way things look, the way things sound, but now we've incorporated all this technology into our world, and you're right, we don't have to change our method of communication anymore.
Yeah. So before we finish today, I'm wearing my Phillies jersey because today is opening day when we
Okay.
record this. I hope that the Phillies won today. I won't know that until after we recorded. But the Philadelphia Phillies have been supporting our work to support people with ALS through care and research and advocacy since 1984. Because of the Philadelphia Phillies and leaders like Ellen Phillips, like Alisa mentioned, and because of Alisa, we have been able to make some tremendous progress with this technology so that people can lead better, fuller, authentic lives. We want to thank them, wish them a great season. Looking forward to celebrating ALS Awareness Night with them again this year. And so thank you, the Phillies, for all that they
Yeah.
do. Alisa, thanks for taking us on this journey, learning more about assistive technology, and who knows what the next few years or even at this pace, months will bring in terms of technology for people with ALS.
Yeah, well, you know what? Sometimes it's weekly. You never know.
Yeah, yeah.
Because technology advancements, you know, every day.
Maybe the next time we record is going to be through holograms.
Well, I hope not, but who knows?
Well, in the meantime, if you're interested in learning more about our programs and services and research about our local multidisciplinary centers, visit our website, alsmidatlantic.org. Again, you can email me with your questions, Tony, Tony, at alsmidatlantic.org. Alisa's happy to take your questions about assistive technology, ALISA at alsmidatlantic.org. This is our Goals podcast where we talk about the different perspectives on ALS. You can go back in our archives and hear many different episodes about what we're doing. Please like and subscribe and share for visibility because we're all in this together. Thank you so much, Alisa. I'm really glad that I get to work with you on this.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity.